Hi, love. It's Lindsay Landry, energy alchemist and heart shaman for healers and soul led entrepreneurs who are ready for deep intimacy and prosperity. So, today is part 3 of Sacred Union, and I'm going to be talking about money, love, finances, and sharing with you a transmission from my own experience, my own unraveling through this love initiation process. Okay. So I'm going to probably go slow. I'm feeling a little nervous as I sit down to record. Yesterday, when I did part 1 and part 2, it's like all this information began to flood to me around basically creating this series. So I'm here for it and I'm willing. And also, it feels kind of vulnerable because I've kept a lot of this to myself. I hadn't really been ready, or I hadn't even had like the integration or the understanding of being able to really share until now. So yeah, this is the first time that I'm really sharing a lot of this. So receive what resonates. And my prayer is that it lands however it needs to land for you, and that it nourishes you and activates you with so much love, and it brings you closer to the things that you're really, truly desiring for yourself. So before we drop in, I'm feeling guided to just bring us through a little grounding. So if you want to put a hand on your heart, maybe one on your belly or your wound, your wound. We have so many wounds around this, money and love, and it's confusing. And that's some of what I'm going to be sharing. So, yeah, on your womb, on your root, on your wound, whatever resonates for you. Go ahead and put your hand there. Let's just create some stability, some safety, some presence. Allowing yourself to meet your body, to hold yourself. Go ahead and just take a deep breath in through your nose, into your heart space. With your breath out, just letting yourself release. Then your next breath, go ahead and breathe into your belly. And then your last breath, see if you can deepen it into your womb. Beautiful. So, yeah, so if you're landing here for the first time, this series I created to share a bit about my relationship journey, sacred union process, and stepping into this next level of my soul's mission, my soul's work, and this thread around love and money and unraveling our confusion and all the ways that this energy gets tangled feels like a big layer in this process. So I want to just share, I'm feeling for how I want to sort of share this. I want to share a little bit about the work that I sort of did in my previous business around money and love and the way that I was holding myself. And then once I went through this activation of this new relationship and this sacred union that I had no idea was even being activated for me, what happened? And I'm going to share a bit about the unraveling and the rearrangement and the messiness of it, right? And like what that looked like for me, and a little bit about kind of where I am now and what is being shown and how it's all moving through. So this is by no means complete. It's still very much in process. So yeah, that feels important for me to name as I begin to share. Also, this is raw for me. It's not polished, it's not scripted. This is coming straight from my heart. I have not sat here and mapped out exactly what I'm going to say. I'm more so letting the energy move through me as a transmission, as a prayer offering. And I'm trusting that, the channeled message of it, okay? So I do want to just say that for myself. So this might not be for everyone, depending on where you are in your process. Sometimes our mind doesn't understand the channeled messages or this level of transmission. But what I want to say is the way that I'm offering this is it's an invitation into a deeper part of you. I'm really speaking from this like heart, soul level self and experience versus tangible 3D mindset how to experience. Okay, so this is not me telling you what to do or how to do it. This is more so me sharing my experience with the prayer that it activates and awakens whatever the piece is in you that you are needing to receive to unravel the next layer of your money and your love story. Okay, so I have always been an entrepreneur. So I went to school for nutrition. I started studying holistic healing. When I was in my internship, I worked at a naturopathic doctor's office. When I finished my internship, I started working there. I worked with multiple naturopathic doctors. I mentored under them, and then I worked for medical doctors doing nutrition consulting, okay? And I did that for a couple of years, and then I started my private practice. And so I've been in private practice since 2012. So from the beginning, I have never really had a 9-to-5 job. I never had that routine. I've never really had that stability per se, or that level of security with my work, because being an entrepreneur, it was always off of like commission, or it was always off of the clients that I had in front of me. So from the beginning of my work, I have really cultivated and developed this level of trust in spirit, in source. When I decided to bring my business online in 2014, 2015, I I was at this crossroads of my relationship not really working. Um, and, I knew that I wanted to bring my business online. I shared a little bit about this in one of the previous episodes. Um, but I was kind of like in this friction of it. And I sort of took this stand and I made this decision for myself that no matter what happened, I wanted to be able to support myself. And it was a little bit of a fight energy that I sort of went into to declare this, and also to like make that decision and to make it happen. And it did. Within 6 weeks of making that decision, I had almost a $7,000 income. And then from there, I just continued to build financial security for myself. And, I built my business up to, I was making consistent 5K months, and some months, I had a $15,000 month. And when I say that, it's not in sales, it's in actual income. And, the thing was, I didn't have a big overhead. I wasn't paying thousands of dollars for Facebook ads. I wasn't even working with a ton of coaches at the time or investing a ton of money in my business. I didn't have a team. So that money was, I was profiting. And I was content. I was happy. Like, it was simple for me. I was sort of at this place of like not really knowing if I wanted to build, like, do I really even need to build bigger and to have more, and like part of me, yes, I did want more for myself in my life. And also there was a level of like being okay, like receiving what I had, and so I was sort of at this place. And yeah, and I also had this confidence. I felt very confident in myself and in my ability to whatever I decided. And when I say decided, not from my logical mind, but what I really wanted, right? Because if I would have decided like, okay, I want to make $100,000 or I want to make multiple six figures, and my body and my soul wasn't on board with that, it would have been really challenging. And the reason that I know this is because that's how energy works. If you're not on board, I would have had to work really hard to get myself on board. So where I was in my process was like, okay, let me receive and see where I'm really being called. And in the midst of that, my partner and I at the time, we started going through some transitions where we moved a few times, and then we lived at the lake, and then it was COVID. And, that was like a kind of rattle for, I think, everyone and for the collective. And so even during COVID, like money was showing up for me. And this has been how things have worked, right? Like, so money was showing up for me, support was showing up for me. And at the same time, I noticed these levels of like shame coming up. And the shame, for me, it was around it not looking a certain way. And I noticed I started to have these judgments around what success should look like. And, I'm living in the swamp of Louisiana, and I'm like, okay, yes, my vision has always been to live on a lake, and I manifested this, and it's the swamp. This doesn't feel very sexy. It doesn't look glamorous. And, if this is like the real raw truth of what was happening inside of me. So if I'm sharing that with my community, like, why are they going to want to work with me? And it makes me so sad, because like I'm feeling the distortion, I'm feeling the illusion that it's in the collective, it's in the industry. And so this was very real, very toxic, right? Because literally, like, I'm being gifted a place to stay. My partner was getting unemployment. Like, we were so blessed, right? We were so blessed. And I had this distorted mindset, or this distorted pattern that I was like in and feeling of, well, I don't know. Like, I don't know if people are going to want to hire me because, like, James is on unemployment and I'm living in the swamp. And what is my worth? What is my value? Right? If I'm not embodying the life, and I'm going to do a whole nother episode on this, but the embodiment piece, if I'm not embodying the life that everybody wants to buy, and this is actually real life, then what? Who's going to want to work with me? And so, again, I want to just like take a breath here because I feel this in my body. I feel the grief. And I see so many people like this happening in their relationships too, where they're wanting to like step into success and they're wanting to align to this vision of attracting clients, right? And like putting themselves in this positioning of like putting themselves in this positioning of being the thing, right? Being the thing that people desire so that people want to work with them. And then they push away, they push away relationships because the relationship doesn't fit within that image. And I really want to challenge us here. I feel like there's such an invitation for us to ask God, ask divine love to touch our perception, to help us see through the lens of love what's true. And this is where this work, it's like, it's beyond what I can explain, and for myself, my soul choosing this path that I have choose to live and experience, one that's a little more raw, it's a little more wild, it's a bit more untraveled. It has gifted me in ways that a taught program can't give to you, right? This is like the shamanic initiation. This is the spiritual initiation. And for those of you who are listening to this, who have walked initiative paths, you will feel this inside of you. You will know. And so alongside these, this programming that was bubbling up in me, I was experiencing the most lush, delicious activations and gifts from God, from the universe. And I was having this deep love affair with life herself and being touched by the goddess and being given to like these codes and transmissions, these teachings, right? And so I was in my shamanic womb. It was lovely. It was so delicious. And also in that space, I sort of decided like I don't want to move forward in the old programming. Like I was seeing these places, and at the time I didn't really know how to hold it. I didn't know how to speak about it in a way that people would be able to hear, what I was saying or to understand. And I didn't fully have the embodiment either. And so I just continued to deepen into my own process and go where spirit led me. And so that was on this exploration of opening to love. And, the way that I began to do that was through this love affair with life and like literally the swamp and nature. And as I did that, right, my relationship with James came to a close. We closed out our relationship, and then this new relationship ended up coming into my life, which activated me in all of the ways. And so when this new relationship came forward, this person, he actually made a lot of money, and he wanted to take care of me, and he wanted to pay for everything. And I was very much in this mindset and this place before that of being very individualized financially. So I was with James for 10 years. We were together for 10 years, and we kept our finances very separate. We were very individual. Sometimes he might borrow money from me and then he would pay me back, or vice versa. Like, it was very clean and clear, and we didn't have any entanglement. And that felt very secure and safe for me. When this new person came and like wanted to pay for all the things, that was kind of like, oh, is this really safe? And also it felt sort of good. And he's telling me these things, like he wanted to get us a place, and it felt really good. And also I could feel the part of me that's like, okay, well, I don't want to lose my own sovereignty, and I don't want to lose myself in this relationship because it feels good, and I don't want to lose myself. And we were also openly having these conversations. And yeah, so that was sort of like where I was. And even after the hurricane, I was still receiving financial support and from God, from spirit, from the universe. And I ended up in the ER. I was hemorrhaging. That was waived. So I ended up getting financial assistance, and I didn't have to pay for it. And I received money from FEMA for both my business and also for my home. So money was showing up. I was being supported. And at the same time, again, it was in these ways that like, oh, well, like I was grateful. And then I felt this edge around like, okay, but this isn't how I want it to come in. This isn't what I want it to look like. And, if I share this openly, like, what are people going to think? Or like, who am I to help somebody with their money when I'm having to receive from FEMA and, having my medical bills waived? And, as I'm saying this, again, I feel the distortion. And this is the things that we do. And this is just very real. This is very human. So I just want to take a moment to breathe here. And, what I was also feeling for is, where's the truth within me? Where is the truth? And what's really being asked? And so, yeah, during all of this, I was sort of like feeling for, well, how do I hold my work then? And what do I offer? because it didn't really feel in alignment to lead with money. And yet I'm in this big money like initiation at the same time, just in a different way than what our logical mind thinks it should look like. And so again, when we're in these initiations, it may look completely different than what you think it should look like, because it's being given to you directly from life, directly from source. It's not going to be polished. It's not going to be sculpted. It's not going to be linear. And so, yeah, so I was, navigating this within myself, and also, beginning to like sort of navigate some of the relationship pieces, because Ken and I were in separation after the hurricane. And then when we reconnected, that was at the end of March of 2022, and I ended up moving to Alabama. The money stuff came forward again. And this time, in the way of, I had this savings from FEMA, and even from the money that I received from COVID, and he had just gotten into his accident, and I'm pausing and I'm slowing down because I feel my brain is kind of like muddy a little bit as I'm sharing some of these things. And so again, I'm just really wanting to be transparent that like this, I'm still processing this stuff. I'm still integrating it. I'm still receiving the gold from it. So I do want to offer it today, and let it land however it needs to land for you. If this is not resonating with you, feel free to just leave. So yeah, so when I moved, it was confusing. It was really confusing because like part of me wanted to like hold on to my money because I'm used to this like independence. And then I felt like I was also being invited into something else. And so, I made the choice, and I did sit in prayer, and multiple times, not just once, but like each time I would sit in prayer, and I made the choice to use the money that I had. And it was it was bringing up all of this contrast between everything that I learned through mindset programs and money mindset, and even the way that I had learned to structure my energy around money. And I was having to look at what was really true and what was true in the moment, because we build these identities for ourselves, and then life gives us an initiation, and it's like, okay, well, am I going to hold on to the old belief or the old pattern, or am I going to step into what life is asking of me in this moment? And so it was really challenging, and it was really bringing me to these edges within myself, and like inviting me to expand my perception and expand my experience and expand my level of embodiment in a whole new way. And it was really uncomfortable, and it was really messy. And so, I was using my credit cards. I was using the money that I had, and because Ken couldn't work for a while. He couldn't even walk. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying because my mind is telling me these things. Also, I love this person madly. And like, I was scared of the health issues, like, what if he never walks again? Like, what is that going to mean for my whole life? And I'm in this like place of what am I doing? This is beyond what I understand. And also, like, I just felt like I had to go through it. Like, that was the only choice. That was the only thing. And so it's interesting because like I would notice things like, the money fears were real, and then like I wanted to paint the room, and I'm like, well, like, what is the value of this, and is it gonna like really help us feel better? And so yeah, we spent money on paint. And when we would decide to go eat out or different things, like it would be this constant choice of how I wanted to experience the interaction and also appreciate the interaction. And sometimes I really appreciated it, and then sometimes I would notice like we would spend money and then I couldn't even appreciate the experience because I was stressed out and I was worried. And all of that was giving me information, right? And then I began to invest in support. I worked with some different shamanic healers and somatic healers, which was really helpful. And part of my brain, even when I was like making those investments, I was like, well, if I invest in myself, then money's going to come to me, because that's how it had worked in the past for me. So I was thinking like, well, okay, I'm going to do this healing work and then money's going to come to me because that's how it works. And then that's not how it was working. So again, it was bringing me up against these edges because I'm like, okay, why is the money not flowing? Looking back, what I can see is I was so depleted. And also, my body was like, even though I wasn't physically hemorrhaging anymore, my energetic state was in a state of hemorrhaging. And there was so much trauma, right? And so it was confusing, and it was like this huge ego death because I was sort of still gripping and grasping, and I didn't like it. I didn't like that what I had built myself up towards and into was like basically shattered and taken away. And at the same time, again, like I felt like I had no choice but to continue to move through it and go through it. And, I did believe, I was like, okay, well, I'm learning how to work with money in a new way. And I had to learn how to start really looking at the finances closer in a new way, and, like managing it. And it was sort of exhausting, like working with the numbers and looking at the numbers, and also like trusting that whatever I needed to do, I was going to be guided to do. And I really struggled with this as well, because I was like, do I get a job? What do I do? What am I being called to do? Is it to go in and do the healing work? Is it to go just make money? And I had to like cultivate this trust that I was going to know in the moment that I needed to take an action, and I did, right? And so I ended up getting a job at Department of Health. And even that job, it was a requirement to get vaccinated for that job, and not COVID vaccinated, but like all of these vaccines just to work in the health department. And, it sort of rubbed up against my personal integrity because I don't believe in vaccinations. That wasn't something that I wanted for myself. And I really had to pray about it. And it was so confusing because I was like, God, are you really asking me to do this? Because I don't know what's true. And Ken was so good. He was so good. He just, he was with me in that process. He was patient with me. Um, he held my hand because I was spiraling in fear and panic. I didn't know what to do. And he would sit with me and he would look at me and he would just say, look at me, breathe, tell me what you're feeling. Just talk to me about what's happening. And, yeah, I feel my body, like remembering just as I'm speaking this, but it was real. It was real. And yeah, I'm wanting to share this because, so much we talk about like the beautiful side of you're making six figures and like getting to the six figures, but this is like the real process of it, like what it actually looks like. And yes, people do talk about it. And also, I wanted to talk about it. So I ended up getting the job and I did the things. And then I ended up getting fired from the job, which was like another ego blow. And, this whole way of everything that I knew about myself and I believed in myself. And, life is like reflecting to me this whole version of life that I never really knew or experienced before. And it was really challenging. I was like in survival mode and I was in this whole different energetic reality than I had ever experienced. And I was also living it in a somewhat of a conscious state, and it, like, while I wanted to just get out of it, I I knew that I had to go through it. It wasn't like I could just pull myself out or I could just mindset my way out. I had to go through the experience. And so, of course, Ken, again, he had a really good job. He was making a lot of money. And so, um, he would bring in money and it was good. And, we were able to stabilize a bit. And then like we would end up in these situations again. And, um, when we decided to buy the camper and move to Louisiana and whatnot, that was like another big, financial leap and a financial, investment for ourselves. And, things haven't really gone the way that we envisioned. And so it's been a deep dive, like I shared in the previous episodes. But what I want to say from where I am in this moment is I've been like all the integration work that I've been doing the last 6 months, I'm seeing things through a new lens. And so what I've been seeing is the energy that had been playing out actually is connected to really deep subconscious woundings for me. And so what I've been tracking is this story that I had where love and money were tangled. And also like I was sort of in between. So I was between money situations, money issues, and I was kind of caught in the middle of it. And it was really confusing. It was really confusing for my inner child. And so, the physicality of that was when I was a baby. My mom and dad separated, so they were young. They were 18 when they had me. They were married for a short amount of time, and they got married basically because my mom was pregnant. And then, they realized that it wasn't gonna it wasn't going to work. And I love my parents dearly, and they've always provided for me. They've always they've always provided for me financially, and they've been there for me. And also, we all have our own experience and our own story. And so I've been looking back at like what my experience was as a child and even as an infant, as a baby. And what I realized is some of the scarcity and some of like the confusion, right, around love and money, it wasn't even necessarily my energy, but it was the energy that I was in. And so then this was playing out, right, in the situation where I was living with Ken. You know, it wasn't necessarily my energy, my beliefs, but it's the situation we were in. So, yes, the physical situation of his accident, and then also our living situation where we were living there for free. And, you know, there was some energy around that I didn't have control over. And so it was bringing up all these control issues as well. But as a child, so like my mom and dad had this thing that they were navigating, and I felt in the middle of it, you know, and I've been doing a lot of work to reframe that and to notice how my perception, even as a child, you know, it was a survival mechanism. It was through a certain lens. And so I've been looking at like, what does that part of me need to see things through a new lens, to see things through the eyes of love? And so I've been attuning that inner part of me to this new lens, this lens of love. And as I'm doing that, Spirit has been opening me and showing me these new frequencies and these new pathways. And it's happening inside of me, and I'm also seeing it and feeling it outside of me. And so let me just see if there's anything else that I want to say here about my specific story. Yeah, so what I want to say is sometimes it's not so simple. You know, it's not so simple about just our value or our worth. It's the actual experience that we had and how we interpreted that experience as a child, how we felt in that experience as a child. And sometimes this could be lifetimes, you know, like it could be in this physical life. You might be carrying something from someone else. And then what I've also been like unraveling through this work is, so my mother's experience, her experience of what was happening with her and my dad, right, in their relationship, and then also with their financial situation, her experience was coming from her programs, right? The things that were taught to her from what she learned. So this is where like the lineage piece comes in. And so that was sort of transferred to me, right? It's not that I wasn't provided for as a child. It's not that I didn't have my financial needs met, because I always have. But what was playing out was the underlying subconscious fears of my environment, right? That I like picked up. And when we are, it was in my body, right? And before I met Ken, I was doing all of this work to reclaim my body for myself. And I started doing that around my sexuality and around love, right? And then here he comes and he activates all this money energy for me. And so I'm like, holy shit, right? I had no idea. I had no idea that that was what we were doing. And then, of course, part of our rupture before we separated was around money. And I'm like, what is this? This is not who we are. You know, we don't let money come between us. So then I've been looking at, why is money coming between us? Where is that coming from? And this is the thread. These are the breadcrumbs that I've been receiving. And I'm like, holy moly, right? So much gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for helping me see. Because as soon as we see, we can begin to alchemize these places. When we alchemize it and we turn the pain into gold, it becomes prosperity. That was part of my intention for sharing this, sharing my process. I'm going to share a transmission that came forward this morning. It's sort of like a little prayer, reprogramming. I'm going to share it in another video, and I'll link it below. If this is landing for you, please let me know in the comments. Give the video a like. Let me know in the comments, or send me an email letting me know. I'd love to hear from you. And, you know, if you're ready to go deeper, to do the deep inner work, let me know. I'm currently working with clients in 3-session container. I also have a 6-month program container. It's really not a program. It's a soul immersion. It's a deep dive soul journey where I'm holding space for you to heal, to come home to yourself, to birth your work, to transform your relationship. It's so beautiful, these journeys. So, you know, if you're feeling called to that, I also have some energy programs where I'm actually teaching you energy tools and techniques so that you can deepen your own intuition and learn how to get into alignment and flow. So if you're interested in that as well, let me know. I can get that information to you. I appreciate you being here. If you're still listening, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for being in my community. Thank you for being part of my journey. I'm sending you so much love.